Let's break this whole free house for $1 scam wide open, because honestly, it deserves its own Netflix docuseries. I mean, you could see the trailer now. One mayor, $1, one community sold a dream. Yeah, it writes itself. But let's not get too fancy. Let's just call it what it is. A hustle dressed up as hope. First off, spoiler alert, it was never free. I don't care if it was $1, 1 penny, or a bag of Skittles. Money is money. You walk into Dollar Tree, fill a cart, and walk. Out without paying, you're not clever. You're in cuffs. Straight to jail. Because guess what? $1 ain't free. Period. End of discussion. So why did Tiffany Henyard, self-proclaimed supermayor, have the audacity to stand in front of people and tell them that a house could be free for $1? The math don't math. The language don't lang. $1 is not free. Isn't that right? There is what makes my blood boil. See, Tiffany wasn't just fumbling a policy. She wasn't just rolling out a program poorly. She was insulting people's intelligence. She tried to dress up a straight-up scam in the clothing of community uplift, but peeled the glitter away, and it was foreclosure in disguise. And let's be clear, Tiffany has been flat-out terrible at this job. There's a reason they only gave her 4 years, and she used every last one of them not to build, but to tear down what was left. But before we dig deeper into the mess, quick YouTube moment. Smash that like button, subscribe, share this video with somebody in Chicago who needs to hear it, and drop your thoughts in the comments. And yes, before anyone asks, I am sitting in my green circle today, decked out head to toe in green. Love it, hate it, doesn't matter. We're moving on. Now, back to Tiffany's master plan. This wasn't just any idea, it was her crown jewel. The one she swore trustees were only hating on because they couldn't see her genius, her vision. Give every single resident a house. Her words, straight face. No laugh track. The pitch was Oprah, but broke. You get a house, you get a house. Never mind the reality. On one block, there's a single abandoned house and 12 families. Tiffany's solution? Everyone magically gets one? Ma'am, what?
This isn't
The Sims. This is real life. It's where you see Tiffany's mindset. In her head. She wasn't just mayor. She was Martin Luther King Jr. reincarnated. If you've ever sat through one of her speeches, you'd swear she thought she was the dream. Not just a dreamer, the dream itself. She carried herself like the I Have a Dream speech was secretly written about her. That's the level of delusion we're dealing with. But let's cut to the trap. Sure, Tiffany would sell you a house for $1. But the fine print said you had 6 months, just 6, to completely renovate it. It's not just a coat of paint. Full repairs. Plumbing, electric, roofing, permits, inspections. The works. Here's where Tiffany played slick. She already had a reputation for holding up paperwork, dragging her feet until deadlines passed. So what happened? You couldn't finish the work on time. Boom, you lose the house. And guess who scooped it back up? Tiffany and her crew. This wasn't charity. This wasn't generosity. This was a land grab dressed up like a gift. And of course, always nearby was her sidekick, Mr. Holmes. The man was like her shadow, always lurking, always barking in defense of her wildest schemes. Pitbull loyalty. But now, silent. Mute. The man went from attack dog to pet goldfish. Quiet. As a church mouse. Funny how that works when the heat gets turned up. Then Tiffany spelled it out herself. No money, no movement, no sugarcoating, no negotiation. She made it clear unless she got her cut, the land bank deal wasn't happening. End of story. And now, she's flipping the script. Crying that trustees are holding secret squirrel meetings, as if she wasn't fully looped in from the jump. Girl, please, you knew. You always knew. Here's the reality. Who's eligible for the lottery? Tiffany. Who runs the lottery? It's Tiffany, who controls every lever of this process. Say it with me, Tiffany. This wasn't the community's program. This was her circus, her monkeys, her strings to pull. The trustees weren't hating. They were being responsible. They didn't want to sign off on a blank contract with zero detail. Because once that ink dried, if the plan exploded on spoiler, it would guess who got blamed. Them. Meanwhile, Tiffany kept twisting words like a Vegas magician. She tried to gaslight residents into believing they had voted on specifics, when in reality, all they approved was a vague, detail-free agreement. That's not leadership. That's deception. And while this circus was spinning, where was Tiffany? Memorial Day weekend, she wasn't in Dalton. She was chilling in Atlanta. Georgia? Yes, Atlanta. And don't test me. I know exactly where she was standing in that Instagram photo. Google Earth is my new superpower. Zoom, enhance receipts. But let's get back to the program itself, the so-called block-by-block initiative. It was nothing more than a scam wrapped in a shiny free house label. Think about it. $1 is not free. Walk into Dollar Tree, grab a bag of chips, skip the register and tell the cops, but it's only $1. You're not a genius, you're a thief. That's the entire flaw in Tiffany's pitch. It was built on a lie. Now creditware? It's Dutha. Trustees actually tried to set up transparency. They promised residents would get the info, see the process, and understand exactly what was happening with land bank properties. Accountability structure, no reckless gambles. Crazy concept, right? Adults managing property like adults. That's what real leaders do. They don't cut people off mid-sentence with, "Are you finished?" They listen, they reflect, they clarify. They don't gaslight or play word games. They build plans that work. Tiffany, she chose chaos. Every single time. So, do I think Tiffany will suddenly wake up one morning and become that kind of leader? Please, the answer is obvious. Option B. She keeps running the same tired plays she's always run. History doesn't lie. Tiffany lied. She twisted. She distracted. And at the end of the day, the community paid the price. Because here's the truth. $1 house was never about rebuilding Dalton. It wasn't about lifting up the community. It wasn't about second chances. It was about Tiffany. It was a scheme, another hustle to add to her long resume of disasters. And here's the kicker. Everyone saw through it. Everyone except Tiffany herself. She was too busy believing her own myth, too wrapped up in her own dream, to realize that the scam was obvious from the jump. It's not leadership, that's delusion. Thought unfortunately Dalton paid for it one fake free house at a time. Let's start with the obvious. You're a thief if you take something without paying for it. Simple. So how in the world does Tiffany Henyard expect us to swallow the idea that a free house costs $1? Make it make sense. $1 isn't free, it's $1. You can't twist logic until it breaks. And yet, Tiffany stood up in front of folks and sold this fairy tale like it was gospel truth. And here's the wildest part. People voted for her. They actually cheered her on after she flat out said her own words. "I'm not giving y'all a dime." Yes, she literally said it. And some of you still clapped like she was handing out gold bars. Now those same folks are quoting her like she's scripture. That's insane. Because here's the legal kicker: if she didn't really say it, and you're running around slapping, I quote, on her name, that's defamation. That's lawsuit territory. That's how you end up dragged into court explaining why you put false words in the mayor's mouth. But back to reality. This whole housing scheme was messy from the start. They went back to the negotiation table, acting like maybe, just maybe, something real for residents could come out of it. Programs for people who actually lived in Dalton, not developers, not outside investors, not shady land banks. And yet, when it came time to deliver, everything got shut down. I brought something real to the table, something workable. And what did I get? Silence. Meanwhile, the land bank. Red carpet rolled out, full approval, no questions asked. Tiffany herself, blocked at every corner. And don't sit there acting like you didn't authorize her. You did. You expected receipts, numbers, blueprints, something tangible. But Tiffany walked away empty-handed. No updates, no plan, just silence. That's her signature move. Start with a bang, end with nothing. And here's another kicker. Investors weren't even allowed to keep those houses once they were fixed up. They couldn't rent them out, couldn't Section 8 them, couldn't build long-term income. They were forced to sell once repairs were done, just so the village could slide in and take its slice. For residents, the so-called cheap $5,000 houses came with even nastier fine print. You had to be a Dalton resident, live there 5 years, pull a 90-day permit, complete every single repair in that same tiny window, and pass every inspection. No shortcuts. No wiggle room. One miss, and you were out. And the wildest part? Tiffany wasn't even in Dalton during half this chaos. While residents were stressing over impossible deadlines, she was down in Atlanta chilling over Memorial Day weekend. And yes, I knew exactly where she was. I pulled up her Instagram post, fired up Google Earth, zoomed in, and pinpointed her exact location. That app is my new superpower. She thought she was slick, hiding in plain sight. Knock on and 4,000 from the sky.
Ow.
Let's really dig in because I've got receipts right here. I'm holding a whole sheet of paper from the block-by-block program, the one with the so-called free houses. Tiffany swore up and down they were free. Just $1. But let's clear this up once and for all. $1 is not free. Walk into Dollar Tree, grab a few items, and walk out without paying. You're not clever. You're in jail. Why? Because you didn't pay the $1. So when Tiffany stands there, claiming houses are free, just $1, she's lying through her teeth. And y'all still voted for her after she told you? Word for word, I'm not giving you a dime. Some of you even brag about quoting her on that. Do you hear yourselves? She really said it? Fine. At least you're repeating truth. But if she didn't, and you're remixing her words into gospel, that's a lawsuit waiting to happen. That's not just shady, that's legally dangerous. Then they flipped it, acting like maybe the money would come later. Tiffany swore up and down the program was only for residents, not investors or land banks. But the truth? They did approve it. They just wanted transparency, numbers, a real plan. Instead, Tiffany pulled her classic move, just trust me. Then she vanished with the details. Same playbook as her so-called cancer foundation? Remember that scam? She told people it was for a good cause, claimed she knew someone with cancer, collected money, but the funds weren't going where she promised. And when people started asking questions, she tried to act like the foundation wasn't even hers. Except it was. Always the same cycle twist. The story, dodge accountability, gaslight people into thinking they're crazy for asking questions. That's Tiffany 101. Now let's look at those investor rules. The checklist was brutal. You had to show $20,000 in proof of funds, be a licensed bonded contractor in Dalton, pull a 90-day permit, pass both initial and final inspections. Put $1,000 in escrow. Then you went into a lottery draw where 75% went to investors and 25% went to the village. Sounds nice on paper? In reality, disaster waiting to happen? I'll give you a personal story. I almost bought one of those houses. Did the paperwork? Lined up the funds? But before I signed, I hired my own private inspector, and thank God I did. He crawled underneath that house, came back up shaking his head. The place was literally sinking. Joists rotted, foundation collapsing. He looked me straight in the eye and said, "Don't buy this house. That one decision saved me thousands." That's why I always tell people, hire your own inspector. Never, ever trust a village inspector. Because Tiffany's track record proves why you can't. Back when she had a rental, she put a single mom with kids in a house that was straight up unlivable. Flooding in the basement, sewage backing up, black mold spreading so fast it was showing up overnight on the kids' shoes. Imagine your child coming home with clean sneakers and by morning they're covered in mold. That's the level of neglect we're talking about. The family got sick. The health department came in, tagged the place uninhabitable, slapped a violation on the door. Game over, right? Wrong. Tiffany rolled out her own shady inspector, who magically signed off that the house was safe. She moved that mother and child right back in. Mold still there. Illness worse. The city had to come back again and tag the property. People started asking questions. Who cleared this? Who let this slide? And every time, it traced back to Tiffany's crew. That's her playbook. Pretend to care, cut corners, bring in loyalists to rubber-stamp disasters, and gaslight anyone who complains. Families breathing in mold, kids getting sick, basements flooding with sewage, and Tiffany calling it safe. That's not just reckless, that's dangerous. So my advice stays the same. Hire your own inspector. Don't trust the village, because if they're not missing it, they're lying about it. Any Dalton, that's more than a warning. That's survival. Survival.